Hi, I'm Leanne Jackson, Senior Law Editor at Forbes, and today I am joined by Sheris Posen. She is Managing Partner of the Americas at Clifford Chance, specializing in antitrust law. She's also a former Acting Assistant Attorney General at the DOJ, and she represents TikTok currently in antitrust matters, along with other attorneys at her firm. So I'm happy to have her join us to discuss the ultimatum that TikTok has been given, the bill signed by President Biden that lets TikTok know their choices are either to find a US buyer or be banned in the United States, to the chagrin of many of its producers, of course, users, millions and millions of people. Is it billions, Sheris, I think, potentially, that use TikTok across the world? But of course, in the United States, the effects are far reaching. And for a lot of people who are fans of TikTok, they would describe it as catastrophic. Can you talk a little bit about how this could play out, what TikTok's options are now?
Well, thank you so much, Eliane, and pleasure to be here. Interestingly, the idea that someone could buy TikTok and not have antitrust issues is sort of first and foremost on my mind as an antitrust practitioner. Who can actually buy TikTok and carry it forward? That would be a US company. So to some extent, some consider it essentially a ban on this company that is generating a lot of ad revenue and giving a lot of competition and innovation to the marketplace.
Yeah, there's so many people who say that TikTok is one of the means that they, at least a lot of the producers that are against this ban, say that this is a way of making money. A lot of people are social media influencers. That's a whole category of profession these days, and TikTok is integral to that. So it's interesting that you say that it's kind of a lose-lose situation, because other companies in a position to purchase TikTok might have antitrust issues. However, ByteDance, the owner of TikTok, says they are going to fight this. And given the courts, the way the courts are ruling on antitrust issues or on any issues that legal issues that ByteDance is going to be appealing, there's constitutionality issues. I think there's First Amendment. How do you think this could play out in the courts once ByteDance does file a complaint? It sounds like that will be soon.
Yeah, I think at least from all press reports, they have said that they will challenge this in the courts. And the basis of that challenge, I don't know. I'm not involved in that challenge. Who knows? It could be takings, constitutionality, otherwise. And at essence here is this balance, right? The surveillance and other national security issues regarding China have been around for decades. When I was at the Department of Justice, there was a heightened sensitivity to that as well. My concern is, again, about competition and innovation, because, the idea that competitors could sort of take advantage of this current environment around TikTok and really advocate for its ban or its sale, or essentially its banning TikTok. As you said, millions of dollars of advertising revenue, which are now being diverted to huge competitors that are being challenged as monopolists in the courts by the U.S. antitrust agencies today. And also this industry, you see DIY, people making a lot, their income by operating on TikTok. And so that will all be gone. That's a lot of, revenue and, I guess people's, wherewithal. It's their income, how they live.
So this is, as you said, a lot of, I've seen some other social media large companies, like who owners and different within this same industry, some who, well, none of them, I should say, are really, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, are any of them really sort of supporting TikTok or on their side? Because a lot of them are facing their own battles. It's a very small group of producers in terms of the industry, whether we're talking about Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Facebook. Some of these people who are in charge, the CEOs, are not necessarily against banning TikTok, but as you're kind of implying or saying, it's to their competitive advantage to have TikTok out of the picture. But who knows what that will mean?
Yes, I mean, again, you have Meta and you have Google through YouTube and others who, advertising is going to get diverted to them, so they're going to make more money. And again, you have the Department of Justice and the U.S. Federal Trade Commission challenging both of those companies in federal court as monopolists. You also have the chair of the FTC who came out, I think it was in March, the end of March, saying she was opposed to having national champions. And one concern is by banning TikTok, you are creating and enhancing that monopoly power and those national champions. So
What does that
it
mean?
just doesn't all.
Explain that? Could you explain that a little further? What are national champions? What does that mean?
So again, I'll have to, defer to the chair of the Federal Trade Commission. She issued a statement talking about national champions, talking about those companies, that are, from the U.S. who are embedded and have, a large market share and control large portions of the market. Some would suggest that Meta and Google are those exact companies, and they're the ones that will benefit from the elimination of competition that TikTok provides.
And in the US, when you handle TikTok's antitrust issues, of course, that's if anything does come up, they're a Chinese company and they're one of the newest major players in this market. What sort of issues do they run up against trying to make sure that their stake in the US market remains and they don't have antitrust issues or anything like that? Is that something that's come into play for them?
So I work at a global firm. Clifford Chance is a global firm for sure, and we do advise on antitrust. I can't really disclose the nature of that, advice, et cetera. But suffice it to say, I think if you look at the market dynamics, and anybody could do that, whether you're working for one of the companies that operate in this marketplace or not, you'd see a highly concentrated market of platforms. And again, it's the reason that the Federal Trade Commission and the U.S. Department of Justice are challenging those platforms as monopolists. There are two cases that have been filed against Google and one against Meta. The state attorneys generals have actually followed on and filed suits as well. So those platforms, are being questioned by our antitrust authorities, or throughout the U.S. in terms of their market power. Eliminating one competitor from that, competitive environment will have significant ramifications. So yes, we have to balance our national security. I don't want to sound like I am not, conscious of the national security implications, the idea that there is some sort of classified information that would show something. I mean, we see that from the U.S. senators who were speaking on camera, yesterday. But at the same time, I think the competitive concerns here should also come into play. And then, as I said, who's able to buy TikTok without antitrust issues? It's, as you said, a lose-lose.
Right.
And why wouldn't we think about, if there's privacy concerns, national security concerns, why wouldn't we have privacy legislation or some sort of privacy regime out there that would actually, apply and protect our data across any platform?
And that makes the most sense. I mean, because that's a huge concern for a lot of consumers and attorneys who work in that space in terms of privacy and how it's handled. So it's not just a TikTok issue. In your opinion and from your observation of what's happening in this case, do you feel like if this were owned by a British company or a Canadian company, do you feel like the same? I mean, obviously China, is considered an adversary in a lot of different ways, but there's more to this potentially than just, oh, we have some privacy concerns.
Right. No, good point and fair point. Exactly. I don't want to dispute that. And could another company beyond one of the U.S. platform companies buy TikTok and operate it? Would it be just as effective with another owner beyond, a platform? I don't know. All I do know is that I find, as someone who works in a global firm and recognizes that we have these national security concerns that have been raised about China and other countries, certainly in an election cycle for sure. I think that we have to really think about the actions that we are taking and how they're going to be implemented. And I also think that we do see competitors taking advantage of this national security environment that we have and using it to their advantage. And, again, as a former enforcer of competition, you have to look at the whole picture. I've got to assume that folks are, but we haven't seen that dialogue. We haven't seen that in the news media. We've seen the national security interests. We've seen, questions around the ownership. We've seen TikTok, give facts about, their information being solely hosted in the U.S. on Oracle servers. So there's been a battle of words here. But I do think we can't lose sight of the competition that TikTok provides. And like I said, and I know our U.S. antitrust enforcers, they're rigorous enforcers, have to be thinking about the impact that this ban is going to have on competition.
Yeah, it's a very unusual decision, although it's been in the works for a while, so it's not like it came out of nowhere. But I appreciate you giving some insight and your analysis of this from a global perspective, from a legal perspective. And is there anything I haven't asked you that you feel is important about this issue, or what you work on with TikTok or anything like that?
No, I thought you'd have great questions. I think we'll see how it plays out and we'll see what happens. It is unprecedented. In antitrust cases, you often see a finding of facts, whether it's globally or in the US or before a court of law, and a decision that a divestiture has to occur to preserve competition. I think here, unfortunately, what we're seeing is an elimination of a competitor.
That sounds to a lot of people, that sounds about right. So we'll see how this plays out in the courts, because you never know how that's going to turn out either. But I do really appreciate your time and your analysis of the situation. So thank you, Sheris, for joining us.